Love song?
Favorite song?
Oh, God.
Why?
Who wrote Love Hurts? You know, Love Hurts. Can't remember it. Who wrote it?
Violent title.
Yeah, Love Wounds, Love Man. Not tough or strong enough to take a lot of pain. Take a lot of pain. Love is like a cloud, holds a lot of rain.
Here we are. Tilda. So how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
And how is going? Everything?
It's going very well. I'm here in Cannes and looking at short films, looking at student films.
And what is your impression about it?
My impression is that the courage is short on the ground. It's interesting. I don't know. I mean, you look at short films, and in a way, you're seeing the film culture of a particular film school culture in each country. That's one of the things I notice, and that's all right. You know, you see the references always, and you see the particular tastes of Russian film school culture or Dutch film school culture. And that in itself is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of faith put in narrative filmmaking, I notice these days.
Okay, that's a big issue. What do you think about this? About the fact that narrative versus form itself?
Well, personally, I always have a problem with the concept of an imposed narrative, because the way in which I look at work, the way I assume everybody else looks at work, is that you make your own narrative. And that a cinema in particular that doesn't allow an audience to make its own narrative is wasting an opportunity at the very least, if not being bombastic at the worst and egocentric. So I don't know, because you see, in particularly in the young films, you see, well, and not so young films also, but particularly in the young films, you see the face of the industry, and you see the pressure of the industry all the time. And you see young filmmakers, very often against their better instincts, you know, looking for a way of existing in the industry. So, for example, encouraging their own televisual leanings or encouraging their own narrative leanings. Bourgeois cinema is informative if it has a sociological blick, as the Germans would say, but apart from anything else, there has to be an attention to the way in which people actually work around capital and the way in which they actually live their lives and eat and organize their relationships, and money is a means to relationship. There's a great fallacy about drama, which is that it's all about decision, and it's about people knowing exactly what they want to do and say at exactly that moment. And for me, always the most interesting thing are those moments in between decisions where people are thinking and they don't know, and they could go and risk. I mean, what's the alternative? If you don't risk, then you don't make a film. I mean, the idea of making a film that doesn't risk anything is a strange concept. And then why are you doing it? For what? For?
To pay the bills.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Some people manage to pay their bills.
Let's try to say something about acting.
Mm-hmm.
Actors, acting. The way you embody some character. I know that, you know, it's not for you a matter of being a good actor or things like that, but it's something slightly different. People is very curious about your ingredients, the ingredients you put in the pan to cook your character.
Well, the truth is that I am never comfortable talking about acting.
I know.
And why is that?
Okay, why you are not comfortable in talking about acting?
I can see the reasons why people might describe me as an actor. I mean, there are reasons. I do occasionally act in films. I can see that it's an easy mistake to make, but the truth is I don't I don't know the ropes, really. I mean, I was not present when they handed out the book on how to talk about acting. I can talk about performance, and for some people it's difficult that I split that hair, and I'm sure it can. It does sound pretentious, but there is a difference. There's a difference between it's to do with a I think it's a question of authorship at some point. I was never particularly interested in being an interpreter. Tell me, is that too bright? Shall I move?
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It doesn't
No, it's fine for me.
annoys you.
I thought you were moving because you wanted me to move.
No. Go. Look at it.
Okay, fine.
Look at it, because it's really beautiful.
Okay, fine.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Fundamental duality of man. We should talk about that, actually. Talk about Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay. Okay, now let me try and... Oh, God, I can never quite be precise about this. Well, let's start with the things that I knew that I didn't want to do. I mean, it's partly to do with my relationship to emotion. When I was growing up, I was brought up in an atmosphere where I was aware constantly of people saying one thing and not telling it all. So I'm naturally suspicious of this belief that people are absolutely truthful or direct, and that language is everything, and that people say what they mean and nothing else, and that if they're feeling something, they will express it. And I've just never bought that, ever, since I was in the womb. It's just not the ground I was grown in. And this means that I'm constantly aware that there are always at least two things going on. Even if someone is, as I am being now, absolutely sincere in what I'm saying, you have two things going on all the time in this close-up that you have on me. You have the words that I'm saying and the choices I'm making fairly fast, because I'm improvising. I'm actually talking to you now. But you also have the fact that I don't know what I'm really saying, and I'm searching to translate my thoughts into words. And most drama, it seems to me, in the theatre, primarily, but in the theatrical cinema, the cinema that's absolutely reliant on theatrical scenarios, is built so often on the myth that there isn't that schism, there isn't that dichotomy. There's only one thing, which is somebody saying everything with their full face and nothing else, and not thinking and not looking for it, with no uncertainty. And I've just never believed it. It's just a myth that I've never believed. And I don't believe really in the face. I mean, that's a sort of contentious thing for me to say, because I, of course, believe in the close-up, but I'm more interested in the mind. And I think that, the flesh of the face is not where you see things. You see things in the gap between the mind and what's actually coming out in the face. But the mind has to be there. And that means an engaged spirit, and that means an engaged mind, which means performance. I mean, to a certain extent, as we know, we're all performing all the time. I mean, there's nothing very exotic about performance. It's just behavior. I'm more and more interested in documentary behavior. I never really believe that a performer should be in more than one film, honestly. I mean, I'm somewhere deep inside, I'm disappointed when a performer is in more than one film. I mean, it sets up a different relationship in the audience with the performer, because they have to remind themselves that this is a human being, a person, or not an actor. Because the second they see them twice, then, that actor, and that vestiges of what they saw them in last time. There's a sort of carapace of artificiality that it's very difficult to shake off. So once one has made the decision in being in a second film, then I see you might as well just go on and be in 30 or 100, because you've broken it, so you have to keep going. And try and become a person again. And try not to be an actor. And it just seems to me that so often what, maybe it's the scenarios, maybe it's the directors, and maybe it's some kind of internal world of the actor themselves, asks actors to just present the shape of an actor and not a person. Is this making any sense at all? Does it make any sense to you? I don't know. I have to try and find a way of being precise about it. I don't know. It's about something. There has to be something authentic for a performance to actually, for an audience to relax around a performance. And if that authentic thing is not there, whatever it is, it could be something really very small, like the fact that one looks appropriate. Could just be that. And then the performer can completely relax and do nothing and just behave.
There is one beautiful line by Truman Capote. He was saying, you know which is the difference between rich and poor? It's just in the vegetables, because rich people have baby peas, baby tomatoes.
Smaller things.
Yeah, baby carrots, baby lambs, just ripped off their mother wombs.
Wow. 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 Vegetable DNA.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is not luxury, of course. What is your idea of luxury?
I don't know, just what we're doing now, you know, just space and time to think. and the luxury of not having to come up with an answer. You know, that, I think, and also the luxury of a flexible identity. Well, I have 4 lives at the moment, and I'm working on various expansion schemes. But I honestly do live about 4 different existences. I mean, it makes me want to start to talk about loneliness, which is one of the things that I wanted to study. I mean, maybe this is not linked, but we'll see. I want to talk about loneliness because it recently occurred to me that that loneliness is the last great taboo, and that it's the secret. An acceptance of the fact of loneliness is the secret to a spiritual life, and to a social life as well, and to love, and that loneliness is the key. Because it occurred to me that what love is when one not only sees and recognizes, but accepts and doesn't try to fuck with the loneliness in the other, and doesn't try and get the loneliness in themselves healed, or doesn't try and be distracted from their own loneliness by the other. And it's a deal that's struck about witnessing each other's loneliness. And that, for me, is it recently occurred, is what love is. And that any other construct is codependence. And that we're sold constantly, certainly in what they now call Western civilization, this romantic notion, and we have been for centuries. But the idea that one can live a pain-free existence, for example, that pain is optional, or that happiness is any more than a flavor. I mean, the right to the pursuit of happiness, which is one of the clauses in the American Constitution. I mean, to me, it's a phenomenal concept. It's rather like saying that you have the right to pursue vanilla. It's a flavor, happiness. It's not an object, and it's certainly not something you can control. And by the same token, one's relationship to other people is exactly that. It takes two to tango, and it's about a kinetic energy, and to try and mess with other people's spiritual relationship with loneliness is, I think, not only a mistake but a terrible waste. Because, as Raymond Williams said, we all die alone.
And how people can understand this? The people we desire understand this, of course. The person.
Okay. Well, it seems to me that Western society certainly expends so much effort in holding off the concept of loneliness, the fact of it, that it is the worst thing that can possibly happen to one, that one be lonely. Or even alone, but lonely, and to feel that existential loneliness. And to feel that you are alone in your own life, and that nobody else can share the whole trajectory of your life. That no one will ever be there for the whole duration of your life. And families become something very degraded, and the idea that your family, the great value of your family is that they were there. They are there the longest. They were there when you were born, and they are potentially going to be there, through the greatest changes in your life. They are the witnesses to your loneliness, potentially, and certainly Northern European and, in my view, Northern American culture. The capital is all about breaking up loneliness and trying to distract one from it. If people were more able to, if the culture accepted loneliness more, if there was a more spiritual understanding of the necessity for loneliness, then no one would buy anything. Because no one would be as hungry or need distraction. So capital depends on this innate fear of the mortal facts. I was in Glasgow recently, and I was standing in front of a shop window, and there was a slogan on the front of it. It was some chain store, I can't remember which one, Next or River Island or something. Certainly an imported chain store, an international chain store, something very ungeneric to Scotland and to Glasgow. And on the front of the window it said, "The art of leisure." And they had these sort of lounging, these women's lounging suits, sort of like sweatpants and things. So inappropriate to Scottish culture. The art of leisure, it has no meaning in Scotland, and it's imposed, and it's pushed, it's peddled as a drug, and of course it's selling things. And there will be people in Bear's Den now wearing those velour leisure suits, trying desperately to conquer or to appreciate the art of leisure, to become artists of leisure, and then feeling terrible failures because it didn't work. And then they'll have to go and buy something else, some candles, or go and have some aromatherapy.
So how do you separate from people, from things, from moments?
You mean?
I'm very attracted by by what we lose.
Go on.
And so I'm curious about this.
You mean from memory? You mean from experiences?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that I realized that one of the things that made me feel quite alienated when I was young, in the environment in which I grew up, in my family and also in the class in which I grew up, is that I have never been sentimental. I was always accused of being emotional. But one of the things I always noticed, although I didn't realize I was noticing it, but looking back I was always aware of it, was there was a terrible hypocrisy in that system where emotion was not allowed. You know, the passion is not wanted on voyage. But it's incredibly sentimental, that society and that system. It's all about not moving on, and it's all about keeping everything exactly as it is, and being fantastically invested in objects, of course, much more than people, and in the past. And I was never particularly drawn to objects in that way. And I was always shedding stuff and always, you know, being very untidy as a child, for example, and being, you know, squandering things. And this was always made me feel very alien, because I didn't know anybody at the time who was doing the same thing. But now I look back on it and I think it was a sort of rebellion. It was a way of trying to be free and, you know, trying to keep moving. And I do feel somewhere as if I want to join the circus and just, you know, travel the road. And I still feel that. We bought a house recently, and we've been wanting to buy a house for a long time as a sort of headquarters, and a garden, which was almost more important, actually is more important. But the first morning after I slept in it, I went down to the bottom of the garden and I looked at the mountains and I thought, I don't want a house. I want a camper van. So I had a little conversation with myself about that. And I don't know, I'll just have to get a camper van as well, you know? Well, you know, it's a fantastic thing to survive things. It's a fantastic thing to survive things.
Surviving is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
Surviving. Let's talk about surviving.
Well, that's actually the best thing. I think I probably like surviving most, and just waking up and realizing you've actually, you know, you've actually made it. And I don't know. This is classic, you know, one of our conversations that's already going off in 15 different directions. Yeah, I'm not masochistic, but remotely. But I am. I'm interested in mortal risk, not because I'm interested in losing, but because I'm interested in proving that survival is possible.
Started to understand the existence of love.
Well,
how, when?
Since you ask me, I would say that, and I don't know the answer, of course, but I'll just ask myself the questions. I think it helps if you love more than one person. I think that's a moment of insight. I've proved to myself that my capacity for loving is not limited. And then I realized that the loving is an active thing, that it's a factory. You become a love factory, and it's an active thing, and you want to do it. It's not that you want to just have a placard on your heart saying, I love so-and-so, which has edges to it that can bend or be broken, or you can cut yourself on it, or there's something around the back. But you are a love factory, and you want to do loving. You don't just want to be in love or love. You want to be a lover. And I think there's a difference. I don't know if that's true, but it feels, as I say it, as if there's a difference. To actually do loving, to actively do it, it's such a nourishing thing. And I suppose what then happens, and this is going to sound very banal, but I suppose in between the gaps of all these different love relationships, you have a love affair with yourself as a lover as well. So you kind of, it all comes back to you. And so you maybe love yourself a little more. Because you're not just burrowing all your love into one object or in one direction. It's not all coming out. It's you as the love factory are actually churning out, quite productively in many different directions. So I would say, again, multiplicity is the key. Music.
You have a beautiful voice. I heard you once singing a song that was on the radio. It was something like Cat Stevens.
I was singing Cat Stevens.
I would love you to sing some song that occurs in your mind now.
Now?
Does it
God. I could. The only thing that maybe because I've just been speaking about Gaelic, I could sing a Gaelic song that my children sing in their nursery.
Are you comfortable with it?
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to remember the words. Booya uanya jarak agus pink, papias oranges, goram, dahanacha forwas, acha forwas here. It's about the rainbow.
Okay, it's about the rainbow.
It's all the colours.
What's the
Booya, yellow. Booya uanya, green. Jarak, red. Agus, and pink. Pink, which is, of course, the word for pink. And all the...
And you repeated three words at the end. It's beautiful.
Yes, I can see a rainbow, I can see a rainbow. You can see a rainbow too.
What berries are at the end of the rainbow? What berries?
I'm always thinking of the end of the rainbows. We have a lot of rainbows where I live all the time. Rain, sun, rain, sun. What's at the end of the rainbow? I don't know, just good old lonely love, I would say. Fellowship and friendship and fun. And Neil Young and Nick Cave. And I don't know, Orangina and sweet peas. I have sweet peas in my garden that I just bought in this garden. And I always had this fantasy that I would be a real lady when I went into this garden and picked these sweet peas and took them into my house and put them in a vase. And I'm probably going to be able to do that in July, because they will have grown by then. So that will be a life ambition, since I was very small. So then I really will be a human being.
That's fantastic, because you're going to reach it.
I'm going to do it, not long, so who knows what's going to happen then. That'll be interesting.
Cut.